Hey guys, it's Logan again. Welcome back to another video tutorial on creating a Spelunky level generator. And in this video, we're going to go over fixing a couple bugs as well as implementing a couple random block features. And I'm going to leave out, we have one bug. If two rooms of type 2 get stacked, it's going to be a blocked path. So we'll work on fixing that next time. For a temporary fix, you can make separate sections and ensure that two type rooms can't stack. So you might have like a type 4 that basically if a 2 room is placed under a 2 room, then it turns to a type 4 room, which would have a top, bottom, left, and right exit. Did I say that right? No, the top room would be set top, bottom, left, and right exit. Okay, but we'll go over that next video. In this video, we're going to be focusing on a couple bugs. So if we run this right now, and there might be a couple changes in my code. I've actually accidentally worked on the project. I've tried to revert all of my changes I made, but I worked on the actual project that I'm showing you right now. But I think I reverted everything, so don't worry about it. So right now you'll see these artifacts like in the top left hand of our corner. There seems to always be like this weird block there. And that's because the way our string initialization is working isn't correct right now. And what do I mean by that? So I made a mistake on the previous video. Fix my mic here. Okay, so if we go to create section from string is the script I'm looking for. C equals 0, when we use string char at, 0 actually doesn't exist because this starts at 1 basically. 1 will be the first position in our string. And that's kind of weird because most languages 0 is the first letter in the string. So if, let's say we had a string that said hello, and we used char at, I'll just do a generic, this isn't the actual code, but if we use char at on this, char at this string 0, this would actually just return a blank string because there's nothing on the left-hand side of this. Most languages, it would return the H as the 0 position because it's 0 indexed. But our string char at function actually wants us to start at 1, so that would equal H in this case. So we have to change that. So we start at 1, so we set our C equal to 1, and then we go to C is less than string length, and we actually have to add 1 to this, and it's kind of funky. I really don't like it. So we actually have to add 1 to this statement, or it will go too short. We won't get to that final string. And then on top of this, we have to make a couple changes down here in our where we create. So since our string is starting at 1, I wrote this code with the idea that the first C would be 0, right? So what we're actually going to do is do C minus 1 in parentheses. Make sure it's in parentheses before you do your division and mod function. So you're doing C minus 1 in parentheses, C minus 1 in parentheses. If you're not doing it in parentheses, it will divide, it'll be 1 divided by section tile, C minus 1 divided by section tiles X, and that's not what you want. So make sure it's in parentheses. And let's make sure we got that changed. And I believe that's all we need to do. So we set C to start at 1. We added 1 at the end of our string length. And then we went down here and did C minus 1 in our computation of where the object should spawn. So now if we run the game, it should be the actual templates that you made. See, we got rid of that kind of weird thing up in the top left, and this looks more like what we wanted to begin with. Okay, so now that we got that fixed, let's add in a couple random blocks. So the first thing that we can do is make a let's make a new block and just call it random block. I actually want to change its color. I'll change its color in code. I'm just going to duplicate our O block with Control D, and I'm going to name it O random block. So I hit F2, O, random block. And in the creation code for this, I'm just going to change its color to image blend equals C red. This is just gonna appear as red blocks on our screen just so we could visualize it for now. So that's just in the create event of our O random block. And now we just need to go into our encode template to string and add in a case for our new object. I need to upscale the code for you. So I went into the encode template script, and I'm just copy and pasting this line, our O ladder line, and we're gonna do O O random block. And I think I just remembered something that I had changed. I need to show you. And for that, let's just use R equals level data plus equals R. So R will be our string value. And when we load it back in, we need to do the reverse. So let's go to create section from string script, copy and paste the latter case. And in the case of an R, we want to create an O random block. And I don't remember if I showed you this type of object code. So you have it how I have this type of object and equals a certain object, and then I just do instance create down here. I don't remember if I showed you that. Hopefully I did. But if I didn't, what I did was move the instance create layer out of the case, put it down here, and instead for the type of object I want to create, I literally put type of object. And I declared it up here at the beginning. And then I just set type of object to equal the object you want to create, so we don't have all these instance create layer lines up here. This makes it a little bit cleaner. And as well, you have to use continue. You don't really need break here, I don't think. Let me run it, make sure. I had it there just in case because I wasn't positive. So yeah. Oh, and I put stuff inside of the actual string. I'll show you that in a second. So yeah, you just use continue in the case of 0, and that kind of breaks out of the for loop. It moves on to the next iteration of the for loop without executing this code down here. So it hits continue, and it continues on to the next iteration without executing anything below it. Hopefully that makes sense. So just copy this script. If you need changes or fixing, you can pause it. And this is our create section from string. And then you saw that I already had some red blocks popping up. That's because I've actually went in and just added some random blocks. And we could do this one of two ways. We want it to randomly pop up, right? So that means that maybe like a 50-50 chance that it doesn't pop up, okay? Right now it's guaranteed to pop up. So if you want to go ahead and add a couple blocks to see this, you can go into your templates, and I just added, like I went into one of my sections, and I've already added C's here. I need to take those out. And I've just added the letter R. Like you've taken a 0 out and you add an R in there instead. And that's if you don't want to go through the template thing once more, okay? And I had C's in here. I'll show you what C's do in a moment. Maybe I'll combine that with the next video though. That's actually entire chunks that it's gonna load in. I gotta go ahead and take them out though so I don't get errors. I think I'm good. Okay, so yeah, go ahead and add some R's in your templates, or you can make new templates and put your R in. Go ahead and pause and do that real quick. Once again, if you add an R, make sure you remove one of the other characters, because we can only have 80 characters the way our code works right now. That stands for the 80 block, or the total of 80 blocks in a section. Yep. So now we need to make these randomly spawn. We can do this one of two ways. You can go into your orandom block object, and in the create event, you can put if choose true false instance destroy. This is probably the easiest way to do it. This is right. It's going to always create this block, but then once it creates it, the object has a 50% chance to destroy itself. But it shouldn't affect it later on, spawning new objects and taking into account these blocks, because I believe these are going to destroy themselves before that code would happen. But the other way, which is probably the more correct way to do it, would be to, in this code, we'll just do the test here. So we'll do if choose true false, same thing. Then we set the type of object and break. So we actually need to use the block here. I kind of messed it up. Or we'll use an else. We just do continue, which, remember, exits us out without doing anything. Continue. So you can go ahead and copy this code if you'd like, and then we run it, and that should give us the same effect, kind of a 50-50 chance that these blocks are spawning. So that can add some randomness in your maps. This is one thing Spelunky does as well. I don't know if it's a 50% chance that these blocks spawn, but yeah, you can make multiple types that some might have a 30% chance, some might have a 50% chance to spawn, or maybe make some that are linked together. Like maybe you would have a wall here set and then like one block here, and either this wall is going to spawn or this block is going to spawn. So always you'll have to either go below that wall or go across it. It kind of, you cut off certain parts of your sections. There's all kinds of stuff you could do with this system. Okay, so I think we have time to do the chunks, and I'm going to attempt to do the chunks. So what a chunk is that means that we're going to randomly spawn a, not randomly, we're going to place a block to represent a chunk in our room. And for this example, a chunk is going to be a 3x3 little tiny section, so 3 tiles by 3 tiles, okay? That's going to be a chunk. So we place one object down to represent a chunk. And then we have a list of chunk strings that are 3x3 that it chooses randomly. So it's always going to choose these random chunks. And maybe even inside one of those chunks, you could have these random blocks too. So I guess the best way will be just to get into it. So what we're going to do is first create our chunk object. So we're going to do create, and I'm just going to use the S wall once more to view it. When you're actually doing these, you want to recolor these representations so that when you're doing your templates, you can actually see what kind of object it is. So I'm going to call this O chunk. It's just going to be called a chunk. This object's actually going to house most of the code, but I'm going to go ahead and exit out. And then let's add in our same code for our create section from string. So I'm just going to copy the latter case and come down, and this is in the, once again, create section from string, and this is gonna I'm gonna label it as a C. It's gonna represent a chunk, and the type of object will be O chunk. Okay, and then break for our exiting statement. And to clean this up, you can actually put, I believe in Gamemaker and other languages you can at least, you can put like a case like this that has a lot of code inside of code brackets, kind of cleans it up a little bit. All right, and then let's see, let's go to our encode template to string, because remember we have to encode when our generator finds this chunk, it encodes a C to our string. So we're gonna change the chunk to a C, and that's it. We have added once more another object we can put in our room. Okay, and now that we can actually add these objects and create it, I'm going to kind of add one into an area. I'm actually going to count over 10. I just went to the section left top right list, and I'm going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then this is so I could kind of visualize what the map looks like. You can actually leave it like this. Oh, did I not count 10 over? Oh. You do this, you have to space here. You can actually leave it in this template so you could visualize the room if you wanted. You would have to just do this and then do this. And then you would have to use add on each line. And this would actually allow you to keep your strings like set up kind of like how the map, so you could visualize it better. It makes it a little bit harder to do the formatting on, but so now I have my string and I'm going to add a chunk. And remember, it's 3x3, so I need to make sure there's enough area here. So let's say I had a chunk here, so it would spawn a random 3x3 section right here, which would actually, yeah, that would be good because you could actually go down here. That's good. So now I'm going to take this out of this formatting. Okay, so I added my chunk into a left top right list. And I'm just going to use one chunk for now for testing. And let's go ahead in our create event for our chunk, set our image blend to see orange. Do we have orange in Gamemaker? Yeah, orange. So this will let me make sure that it's actually getting spawned in the game before we add the rest of our code. I think this is orange. Maybe orange wasn't so good. Gray? Green. So I'm probably going to cut that. I put my image blend to sea green. Okay, there it is, sea green. So yeah, that's spawning. So that should spawn a chunk now when we're finished, okay? So what we're going to do is write a series of chunks. So let's go ahead and copy our initialize left-right sections. I'm just going to duplicate that, and I'm going to rename it to initialize all chunks. And actually in this, we're not going to separate out our chunks, because unless you have different types of chunks, there's no reason to. We'll just go in here and actually do our ds list create here, and we're going to name this chunks equals ds list create. Okay, and I'm going to increase that. So now I'm in initialize all chunks, script call it initialize all chunks. And now we need to make some kind of a different chunks. So these you don't really need to do in a template editor because it's only 3x3 sections, so you can actually just kind of visualize it like this. It's really easy. So this is a full chunk. Let's do a full chunk with like a random. You can, like I said, you can do the R's in here, I believe, as well. We'll have to set it up. You can add these in later on. Let's just do 1s and 0s for now. But later on, you can add in your R's and stuff, and it should be pretty self-explanatory on how that's done after we're finished with this. Then I'm going to do like a 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1. That'll give us just a good bottom, like a floor platform. Let's do one more. You can see you could go through these pretty quick. You can make so many variations. And then after you add in your random ones also, should be good. Okay, so, and we need to change what list we're adding this to chunks. 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 And chunks. And then let's go into our initialize room script. We need to make sure we call this script. So we're going to do, under initialize all sections, we're going to do initialize all chunks. Oops, spelled something wrong here. Initialize all chunks. Again, this is in our initialize room script. And we need to destroy our list at the end. So we're going to do ds list destroy chunks. Okay. That should be all we need for our initialize room script. And now that we have our initialize room script set up, so it's going to initialize our chunks, it's going to create our list, it's going to add strings into our list. Now we just need to pick a random string and decode that string into our map. So we're going to do that inside of our oChunk create event, okay? So what we're going to do is get a random string. So we're going to say chunk string equals, we're just setting a default variable. We can use var actually. Well, we don't need to. We're going to destroy our instance at the end of this. So chunk string. Now let's get a random. I guess we don't have to initialize it like this. Let's just get a random string from our list. So ds list find a value of, well, we're actually going to have to grab our chunk list from our level creator. So we're going to say creator, we're going to call a variable creator, and it's going to be O level creator. So this is just going to grab the O level creator instance, okay? And now we're going to say ds list find value from our creator dot chunks. That's the list that we're trying to find. And then that's what we want to put or grab a value out of. And then we're going to grab a random value from this list. So we're going to do floor random ds list size, and then what size? The size of our creator dot chunks. So it's going to get the size of our creator dot chunks list. It's going to get a random value, and size is going to return the actual size, not 0 indexed. That's why we have to use floor to make sure that we get the rounded down version of the random. It's kind of hard to explain, but if you don't use this, you could get a out of bounds error. Basically, that position wouldn't exist in the list. Okay, am I missing a parentheses here? Okay, cool. So now we have our random value, our random string value, and we just need to do that same loop from basically a switch case and create an object. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna use like var type of object. And then we're gonna do a switch chunk. Wait, do we have to do a for loop? We have to do a for loop to iterate through our string first. So we're gonna do for. Remember, we're gonna have to use that same thing, c equals 1, and then c, as long as c is less than string get string size, string length. String length, and what string are we checking? Well, we're checking our chunk string. Remember, we have to add one onto this. And then we're using C++ as our incrementing value, and then we encapsulate it in the squigglies, and we're doing a switch of our type, not our type of object, of our string character char at, so string char at. And what string are we checking? Chunk string. What position are we checking? We're checking our C position as it's incrementing. So we're checking each character in our string now. And I'm not missing something. And our first case that we have is a 1, of course. And in this case, we're just setting our type of object to equal O block. And we're breaking out after if that gets executed. Case 2, we're just gonna set our, wait, not case 2, case 0, sorry. Probably should put these in order as well. In this case, we're just gonna continue because we don't wanna create anything in that position. That's going to break into our next iteration of the for loop without executing anything else below it. And this is where you could do your R. I guess it's not hard to add case R type of object equals O random block. So we really could have just put that inside of our string. So after you do this, you can actually use your random blocks inside your small chunks as well. Okay, did I type this wrong? Why am I getting, oh, don't forget your colons. And now we need to create our instance. So let's do instance create layer. Our X and Y values are gonna be a little complicated. So we're actually starting at our chunks position because it got created in a place in our room, and it's doing the creation of the rest. So all the rest of the blocks are relative to that chunks position on the screen. So we're gonna do X plus. Now we have to do our mod thing. So we're gonna do C minus 1 in parentheses, remember? So I'm going to actually put that in parentheses. Mod, well, we have 3. We can go over 3. This is going to be kind of the length of your chunk. So that 3 is the length of our chunk. So if you make a 4x4 chunk, you'd have to use 4 instead for this value. Okay? So now we got our X position, kind of. We have to actually encapsulate this stuff in parentheses now. So that entire sequence in parentheses, and multiply that by our grid size. So we get our grid size from our creator dot grid size. Because remember, our grid size is set from our level creator object. Now we need to do the same thing with the Y value. I'm actually going to go ahead and press enter and kind of space over here. So it's going to be Y, and then inside of this is going to be C minus 1, as that's our kind of variable that we're using. And then we're doing divided by, it's a 3x3, so we're dividing by, we're dividing by the length of our chunk, kind of the width of our chunk. We actually need to take the floor of all of this, because remember we're rounding down, kind of the same concept as before. I'm kind of mixed up in parentheses now, there's so many. Need to fix the parentheses. What does this parentheses go to? We should have one after our grid size. That's correct. And then we have our grid size, should be that one. Okay, that's correct. So now we have our Y plus floor divided by 3, and that should all be encapsulated together. We can actually take those parentheses out. And then now we need to give it a layer ID. Well, it's our instances layer. And then we need to give it a name of object, which is going to be type of object. And that should be good, I hope. And we had to use C minus 1 once again because our C starts at 0, and this is kind of 0 based, this math. So we need to multiply our Y by our creator dot grid size as well, and encapsulate this entire thing in parentheses to make sure it's not multiplied by the Y. Okay, so that's a lot of parentheses. Your parentheses are going to make or break this part, so kind of make sure you have what I have. And now if I run it, I want to say it's going to work. This is all in our create event once again. And now we have these chunks, and the math is not correct here. So I'm going to kind of fix that. This is actually off too. What was the green? Was the green our random? Let me run this one more time. Switch char at DSLS find value. I think our random blocks are actually working. Our green is not creating. Boom, boom, boom. What could be the issue? Could be the math. There's something wrong with the math. Wait, this I think is right, actually. Let's recolor the chunks that it creates. So what we could do to do that is I'm actually going to set this to like b equals the instance that we're making. And I'm going to set b.image blend equals c. What's the color that's going to show up for me? Silver, maybe? Let's try silver. And why am I getting an error? Oh, did I delete the for loop brace? Okay, I guess I deleted the for loop brace. I'm not sure. Okay, so yeah, we're getting, it's weird math. You see, we're getting these blocks, but okay, before I didn't have these parentheses. So let's take this out. The parentheses around the entire function with grid size. I don't think that is the issue though, but yeah, it's doing something odd. X plus c minus 1 mod 3 should be correct times grid size. Let me make sure it's getting the correct grid size. So I'm going to put 32 instead of get grid size because I know that's our grid size. Oh wait, what am I missing? I'm missing I was missing a comma. Deleted it on accident. Yeah, why is it doing this to me? C floor of, oh, why is it getting, I think it's getting floor of c minus 1. It's not getting floor of c minus 1 divided by 3. That was the issue. So I gotta fix these dang parentheses again. We need to get floor of c minus 1 divided by 3. And then all this needs to be in parentheses. Okay. Like I said, parentheses are gonna make or break you here. And that looks kind of right. We need to destroy our instance at the end of this though. We need to go instance destroy. Basically destroying ourselves after we create our block, right? Our chunk. And now we have these two chunks that are completely full. I'm not sure. I'm gonna open up and then we have the one with the empty middle, and then, yeah, that's correct. How many did we make? Let's see. So we have a full one. Then we have one that has an empty middle, which is this one. Then we have one with just the floor piece, which is this one. Then this one has like a kind of triangle shape that I saw last time. Now we have our red blocks that are empty. And like I said, you can go into your initialize all chunks and add like a R in here. And maybe I'll add one more R just so we can. So I deleted a 0, added an R. And you should get random blocks that spawn inside your chunks every now and then as well. Oh, did I don't know if I did the create event correct for this. Oh, random block spawns. Hey guys, if you did it like this, it's actually working. I just didn't set the image blend so it doesn't appear red when it appears on the screen. That's all. It should work, and I have to cut the video, guys. It's pretty long. I'm sorry it was a little bit choppy. Hopefully you figured out some stuff, and I'm still not getting it. But yeah, we went ahead and fixed the kind of the offset of the characters because once again, Gamemaker does it kind of weird and I wasn't expecting it. We added the random reds, and now we have chunks that you can have as many chunks as you want, different types that can spawn randomly as well. So I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you learned something. If you have questions, I'm sure there will be a lot of questions about this. So go ahead and paste below or comment below and I'll get to it as soon as I can. Thank you guys for watching, and if you enjoyed it, like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.